when I had my HGA experience, I got a magical oath, which was to define my trajectory. And although it's a little bit obscure, I can still return to it when I have questions about what I should be doing, where I should be going. Like, this is what I have affirmed myself to do in the universe. And so that's, in many ways, that's the magician's most important tool. Every ritual should open up with the magician proclaiming their magical oath, because that identifies that individual to the universe. This is what I have, well, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, this is what I've determined myself to do in this life. So that's key. That's where you get the force of will, the force of intent behind the ceremony. Next I'm going to talk about the wand. This is key, obviously. Like the wand is huge. And the magician's wand should be the physical manifestation of their will, of their creative intent. Use the wand for conjuring. The wand is used in virtually every serious ceremony, like the pentagram ritual, the invocation of the Bornless One, Liber Reguli, to a certain extent, doesn't really have the wand. The Star Ruby doesn't really have the wand, for example. Most traditional rituals always have the wand. Crowley, when he was writing later on, had rituals that were developed to kind of phase out tools to a certain extent. And I think that people should do those rituals. I think they should balance them with the rituals that use the tools. And I think that they are not as effective until, like, you can't really transcend something until you've been using it for quite a bit of time. So I don't think those are as effective until you have been using the tools for a certain amount of time. The wand is used for asserting the will over the spirit world in a certain sense. You use the wand to call up a spirit, to call in a force. You are saying, like, this is what I want, come now, this is the tool that I'm using to bring it. Now, it also brings life into ideas, essentially. This is the fundamental idea of conjuring. We have an idea, that we have a symbol, we have a name, and we want to imbue that with a kind of existence that we can communicate with, or engage with, or bring into ourselves. For myself, my wand is made of hazelwood. It was cut by a practicing witch during a full moon and given to me as a Samhain present, because I used to be part of, I was the only Thelemite in the group. I was in a group of Wiccans, so we celebrated Samhain and the other, which, we do in Thelema as well, but just not to the same extent. So, it has a lot of significance in that respect. The event of its cutting was significant. The event of me getting it was significant. I had it painted red initially and had a number of symbols on it, which are personal, so I'm not going to describe, and now it's black with gold symbols on it, which again are personal. It's topped now, which over the course of me using it for a couple years, I began to modify it. It's topped now with a quartz crystal, which is wrapped in 72 inches of magnetically charged copper wire. The quartz crystal is married to, is a two-part, which I broke in half. The other half of the crystal that's on the top of my wand is in the solar image. I have a metal image of the sun, which I put on my altar, and the crystal's inside there. To consecrate it, I took both crystals, and I drew in chalk on my altar Agrippa's planetary squares over a series of days. And I would take the crystals and move them, trace them through the squares sequentially, like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And I would, with each number, say a little prayer or paean based on my understanding of that number's mystic significance as it relates to the planet in question. And I did that with Mercury, the Sun, and Jupiter squares, with both crystals, and as a way of... The next one I'm going to talk about are the cup and the disc, which I'm going to talk about together. Crowley says the cup is representative of the magician's understanding, whereas the wand is representative of the magician's knowledge. The cup is not used ceremonially as much. There are certain celebrations that it's used in, and it is definitely possible to use it more in rituals if one formulates the ritual around what's in the cup. And Crowley describes it as the wand is a vertical line and the cup is a horizontal line, because the water is a flat plane and the wand is a stick, essentially, or a thing, anyway. So the substance that's actually in the cup, if you're going to take, imbibe any kind of alcoholic stimulant or any other kind of liquid stimulant, it would be in the cup. That's how you take it in. For consecrating certain items, the cup is very good. It's essentially the feminine will symbol. For my cup is very simple, very plain metal, but it was used in a very holy, austere Catholic wedding ceremony, and that's where I got it from, where they drank from it, essentially. And one way or another, it came into my hands, and I figured it was a good balance for the very pagan wand that I have. So that's what I use for that. The disc is Crowley describes as like the food of the magician, is what the magician sustains themselves with. So anything that, whatever, is meant to be representative of the universe as a whole. And people can be innovative with this. You can design your own disc, use your own materials. Wax is very good, beeswax is very good. Different kinds of wood are very good if they're properly consecrated, if they have a certain kind of significance to you. Metal can be used as well. You can make marks on metal. You can actually buy online acid to mark metal products if you have those. Personally, I have a plate that I got from my father with the Chinese horoscope symbols on it, and I use that overturned with my singing bowl on top, which I use as a bell, essentially. And that whole connection was based on an Amun-Ra working. I consecrated the bowl to Amun-Ra, and Amun-Ra is Lord of the universe, so hence the universe is upside down and underneath his symbol. The dagger and sword are kind of connected. The sword is used for basically keeping demons. Usually you only use it in an evocation type ceremony, and you usually only use it when you're dealing with potentially hostile entities. So you'll use the sword as a way of kind of like pointing at the triangle, saying, okay, like there's a distance between me and you. Crowley tells us to keep the sword point down because the sword is about division. And if you lift up the sword point, then the idea is you're dividing the crown, dividing Cather. Cather can't be divided, so it nullifies the whole purpose of the instrument. People can experiment with that and see what happens. I don't know. I've never really played around with it and always kept the point down. And the sword I used is something that I got when I was in Spain as a kid, about 12 years old. So it has a lot of memory to me, a lot of significance. It's black now because it was been through a house fire, so that kind of makes it a little more interesting as well. Again, there are these events, not just using it in rituals, although of course I've used it in many rituals, but it's not just using them in rituals, it's the fact that it's been with me, it's part of my life, and it has a lot of significance because it's been with me through those events. The dagger is what we use for banishing. And the banishing rituals are one of the most important things that we can do. I mean, they tend to be overemphasized, but still they're overemphasized because we need to do them. It's a way of dispersing forces, it's a way of clearing a space to do a ritual. So it's essential. But what I find with daggers is banishing has a way of tearing something apart. So what I find with daggers is that the simpler the better. Mine was very ornate when I first got it. It had a lot of onyx stones on it and a lot of inlay and stuff like that. As the more I found that I used it for banishing, those things just fell out or got lost or fell apart. Now it's almost completely bare of all the things. And it's not like it's been through wear and tear or anything like that. It's been sitting on my altar. It doesn't go through anything. But I essentially managed to banish away most of the precious things that were originally on it. I got the dagger at a market in Jordan, in Amman, and it was very interesting for me. It was a great experience to be there, and even buying it was funny because the guy was trying to convince me that it was the sidearm of a Russian Tsar, and I'd really already decided that I was going to buy it, so I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, like, give me the dagger. And then as he was talking, because he wanted to tell me the story so bad, he wanted to tell me the story. So I leaned on the desk and I saw a basket of identical daggers underneath London. And the guy didn't blink. He looked me right in the eye. He's like, "I give you 2 for 1." Like, okay, cool. I got 2 daggers now. I didn't even care. But yeah, that was my experience of the culture there, and I found it very, very funny. I really enjoyed my time there. So the dagger always reminds me of that. And for me, the sword and the dagger I both bought in very faraway places, whereas the wand and the cup came from very personal places. And this is significant because the wand and the cup are expressions of will, whereas the dagger and the sword are a distance, about banishing. And that's just something I brought to the table for that. I don't think anyone's written